Hello. In this session, we will look at how you can define the Terraform import command and also we look at the syntax as to what all information you will need to provide when you are declaring the Terraform import command. So whenever you want Terraform to manage your existing resources, we make use of your Terraform import command for that. Now, when you're running this command, you can pass some options, some arguments, and Terraform will start managing those resources for us. So basically, whenever we are running this Terraform import command, we will need to give some information like which resource you want Terraforms to start managing whenever we are running this Terraform import command. Now here, this will be the syntax. So we use Terraform import. You can pass certain optional options and then the address and then the resource ID that you want to manage. So this is the syntax. Now, what exactly information you need to pass, we will talk about that. So the import command will find the existing resource from ID. So this ID is basically the ID of the existing resource you want to manage. For example, let's say you want to manage an EC2 instance. Now, in this case, the ID will be the EC2 instance ID that you want to manage and import that into your Terraform state at the given address. Now, address will be the address that you have given in your resource block, something like, let's say, AWS underscore instance dot your local name. That becomes your address. So what will happen is when I run this command, Terraform will use this address, map it to the ID and store that in the state file. So the address must be a valid resource address. So make sure whatever the address you are giving it from the configuration files that you have defined. So let's say you have defined your resource block. So whatever you have given in your resource block of your configuration file, it must be valid. Now, because any resource address is valid, the import command can import resources into modules as well as directly into the root of your state. So once your resource address and everything is valid, when we run this Terraform import command, what this will do is this will simply import the information about the resources that we have given here in the ID, and it will store that in your state file, either in your root module or in any other module that you have defined. Now here the ID is dependent on the resource type being imported. So for example, let's say if your resource type is an EC2 instance, that will have your ID, or if it's a load balancer, that's a different ID, or if it's a Route 53, that's a different ID. So the ID is totally dependent on the resource type that you want to import. For example, the AWS EC2 instances, it is the instance ID. When I say ID, for EC2 instance, it will be the instance ID, and for Route 53 zones, it will be the zone ID. So here, for example, this will be the command if I want to import an EC2 instance. So here, Terraform import AWS underscore instance dot example becomes my address that I have defined in the resource block of the configuration file, and then I hyphen ABCD123 becomes the ID, that is the instance ID that instance is associated with. Now we can reference the provider documentation for details on the ID format. So if you're not sure what ID you should be using, you can always have a look at the documentation that is available. So for example, here, if I go to Terraform AWS provider and let's go to the provider documentation. So here I have the documentation. Now let's say, for example, you want to import an EC2 instance, right? So we'll go to the EC2 section. So here I have the EC2, and let's say we're looking it for the instance. So here, if you scroll down to the bottom, so here you see this import, you should be able to see here. So instances can be imported using the ID, and here you have the example as well. Likewise, let's say I want to import my load balancer. So here we should be able to see an example for that as well. So under import, we should be able to see. So load balancers can be imported using their ARN. So in this case, it will not be the load balancer ID, rather it will be the load balancer ARN, and here we should be able to see the example. Likewise, let's say we're looking for Route 53. So here Route 53, under that we're looking for the zone. And here again, for the import, we should be able to see. So this case, it is talking about the zone ID. So like this, if you're not sure, you can always have a look at the documentation to get the details as to what ID you should be using. And even if you're unsure, you can just go ahead and try anything in place of the ID. And if it is not valid, you will receive an error telling that it's an invalid ID. All right, so that's basically the syntax and how you can define or how you can use the Terraform import command. In the next session, we will see an example as to how we can import our existing resources in Terraform. That's all for this session. Thank you. Once again, before you leave, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you like the video, leave a like and please share the video.